for tuning into my cozy, COVID informed, airborne aware YAP session. It's cozy because it is the beginning of May and I'm under a heated blanket right now. I'm on my couch, feeling comfy. I'm also leaving some space so that I can share some images with you all. So, yeah, let's get into it. My name is Courtney. My pronouns are they, them. I live in Chicago. As you can tell by the mask, the title of the video, you're not here by accident, right? You still care about COVID. You are concerned about other airborne viruses in the air, right? Which is why this is not a big deal, which is why you want to learn more about air purifiers and just hear me yap, because you more than likely connect with me on social media, or one of your friends sent you this because you are also COVID conscious, COVID informed, COVID aware, airborne aware person, right? Okay. Like I said, my name is Courtney. I live in Chicago. Chicago's a great place to be as a COVID competent person. If you're unfamiliar, Clean Air Club, one of, if not the first, air purifier lending organization in response to the COVID pandemic, started right here in Chicago and has inspired lots of other clean air clubs in the world. So, shout out to Clean Air Club. I feel really fortunate to live in Chicago as a COVID competent person. Very quickly, I think I did say there will be timestamps in the video. I'm a Gemini, I have ADHD, and I very much made a list of talking points for myself so that I don't get too off track. Because again, this is called a yap session, right? I also want it to be relatively focused, and above all, I want it to be informative. I want you to feel like watching this video, you learn something new. Thank you so much for being here. All right. So, why do I like to talk about being airborne aware as opposed to COVID cautious? To me, COVID cautious is very nebulous and vague. People can have varying degrees of precautions and mitigations. Someone can be COVID aware, like people, there are lots of people that are aware of COVID, but whether or not they're taking mitigations and that level of mitigations, it varies, right? So I like the term airborne aware for myself. Of course, for algorithmic purposes, I needed to title the video something, a phrase that most people are using, maybe to capture people who have never come across me. But yeah, let's get into it. I came across an excerpt from this zine, Something's in the Air, and it's not just COVID. A zine, an ongoing discussion on being airborne aware. Came across it on Instagram. I'll link to everything that I share in this video. And yeah, let's get into it. What does it mean to be airborne aware? Why is this important in the struggle against fascism and capitalist imperialism? To be airborne aware means more than just being COVID conscious, COVID cautious, COVID informed, COVID competent. To be airborne aware means understanding that the capitalist response to COVID has paved the way for more airborne diseases to run rampant. This means that COVID is not the only threat lingering in the air we share. Flu, RSV, norovirus, measles, tuberculosis, bird flu, smoke from wildfires, pollution, toxic chemicals, radiation, a fascist surveillance state, and so much more. To be airborne aware means understanding that we are living through a mass disabling event propelled forward by capitalism and fascism, and this will have resounding repercussions for generations to come. To be airborne aware means we understand that no one is disposable, despite what the powers that be tell us. I'm sort of jumping around because I skipped something here. This means that we must do all we can to protect one another, which starts but does not end with wearing a high quality mask such as a KN95, KF94, N95, or better, ideally everywhere. To treat life as precious means showing our firm and steadfast solidarity with the most vulnerable while understanding that we are all vulnerable. It means, sorry, I skipped this part. It means implementing tools that clean the air we share and inviting others to join us in this daily practice. Yeah, I recently came across a post on Twitter by Adam Wong, an engineer in China, and he shared his experience getting tested. I believe he ended up testing positive for like strep throat, and him just walking the audience through the steps of this diagnosis process just it's kind of gutting that the US has so much wealth, and yet you look at the ways in which the government institutions, the way it is spent, just knowing that like the tools are there and we're just choosing not to use them. It is an active choice for things to be playing out the way that they are. And so thinking about COVID cautious, COVID informed, and this definition of airborne aware that I just shared, there are people who are only masking for themselves. There's no sense of disability justice, racial justice, environmental justice. There's no sense of solidarity. And there's also just the nebulousness of COVID cautious. It means so many different things to different people. And so going back to wearing a mask everywhere, that is pretty much my life. When I step outside my door, even if it's to go get my mail, um, yeah, it's very rare that I'm like sharing the air with someone else unmasked. It's just very rare. So, which is part of why it was no big deal for me to wear this mask for this video. I'm absolutely loving the B&X duckbill in 95. I'm so glad that they came out with a black one. Yes. I'm also, I don't really wear this one very much though in my daily life compared to my Jackson Safety in 95. Would you give me a second? Sometimes you can catch them on sale. I will link to the site where I get mine. And you can sign up for the alert for when they have some more in stock. But and hopefully they will get more in stock. A pack of 50 for $5. The shipping was around 10, 12. Yeah, they're very breathable. This was my first introduction to duckbill mask. I love the breathability of it. It's very soft. The mask are like, I mean, the straps are fuzzy. They're not super tight. Like, there's definitely a little snap to it, but it's not hurting me. But yeah, of course, masks are very individual. So what works for me may not work for you. But yeah, just a very quick mask review. Most of my mask experience has been with BNX over the past 2 years. Yeah, started out with their trifold. In the last year, moved to the boat style, then the Jackson Safety, and now the black BNX duckbill. I don't have experience with the Aura. I have experience with the Powicom KN95s. I don't buy those anymore. But yeah, masks are so individual. So I hope that you have been able to find a good mask for you. And if not, maybe we can help each other in the comments. There's also the Reddit page, mask 4, number 4, all. But yeah, the reason why most of you are here is because I recently made a post over on my Instagram about portable personal air purifiers, and a lot of you were very interested in that. My experience has been seeing people with like small portable air purifiers on social media. So whether it's like the Pure kind, the Smart Air QT3, the Air Fonta 4 Light, and I have recently been introduced to the Clean Air Kits Exhaleron, and there's also a proprietary question mark. I came across this data scientist on Twitter. He studies indoor air quality, among other things, and he came up with his own sort of personal air purifier. There's a tweet in which he says, introducing the Laminaire. Safer indoor dining, safer working in the office, at least double-digit exposure reduction factors while breathing 12 inches away from the device. The way in which I've seen people use personal portable air purifiers, the close range is really what I'm focusing on for this portion of the video. So something you would use for a dental appointment, maybe the doctor's office, maybe you're on a plane or a train and you need to eat and hydrate, those sort of situations. It can also just double as another mitigation, especially if you're on a plane or a train, you're hearing a lot of coughing, that sort of thing. This is a good tool to have in the face of just systemically we're not doing enough to reduce the spread of airborne viruses. You already know that. All right. So Ederic Ugadens, his device is a really compelling device. I'll link to the science. I'll share some of his data here. He's analyzing the Smart Air QT3, which I see a decent amount of people sharing that on social media as like a device that they feel safer with. So that's here on the end. I hope it shows up the way that I would like for it to. So that's it on the end with the smallest output of clean air. In the middle, you have Ederic's device. I really hope that I am pronouncing his name correctly. And it has the largest output of clean air. Then you have the Air Fonta 4 Lite on the far right side. At least that's the way I would like for it to show. And so, looking at this, I would not feel comfortable recommending the Smart Air QT3. I'll link to other data. You can make your own choices, but my personal recommendation here, it's going to be Ederic's device, the Clean Air Kits Acceleron. That is a relatively small air purifier that you can put on a table. I'll show the illustration here of how it's like intended to be used. On the Clean Air Kids website, they put a recommended room size and like the amount of people where it's to be used, which I really appreciate. And then you also have the Air Fonta 4 Lite, which I also recommend. I recently purchased it. There was enough room on the credit card. I did not want to be impacted by tariffs sometime later. And I was just like, I'm just going to go ahead and get it. I will have it for whenever I need it. I know a time will come that I will. I'm grateful that in my everyday life it doesn't feel like a critically needed piece of equipment. Um Unfortunately, Ederic's device, you will need access to a 3D printer unless he decides to start selling them again. If you do have access to a 3D printer, he does provide the code. I think that's the name for it. I'm not super familiar with 3D printing. Um, Provides the code, the materials list, that sort of thing, and is relatively accessible on social media if you have questions. I've seen people ask him questions about his device. So yeah, really look into the science on that. Like I said, it's really unfortunate that these devices are so inaccessible price wise to a lot of people. But if you have the means and you can break the chains of transmission, if you can split the cost with someone, share it within your community, assist someone else who critically needs it and could benefit from it in buying it, supporting mutual aid funds, direct aid, definitely recommend that. So, when it comes to room air purifiers, let's talk about clean air delivery rate. Hopefully, just by me saying that, it makes sense. But how quickly does this device deliver clean air? And depending on the size of the space I'm in, is that a fast enough rate to reduce disease transmission? The CDC recommends 5 air changes per hour for airborne virus mitigations. I've seen that number recommended to be higher from other sources, especially if there are going to be lots of people in the room, especially if the wastewater data isn't looking great in your area, if you still have access to wastewater data, if people are going to be on mask, depending on the activities. But let's bring it back a little bit and just focus more on your space, your home, or maybe your workplace. Maybe you work at a school or some other space that could benefit from an air purifier, and you have the means of getting an air purifier in that space somehow. So, clean air delivery rate, most commonly referred to as CADR, CADR, and that is something you're really going to want to look for when it comes to commercial air purifiers, which means they're already pre-assembled. You didn't need to do any work other than like take the plastic off the filter, plug it in, or if you're like me, you have the Air Fonta 3 Pro and you need to assemble it really quickly. But yeah, something that you basically didn't build yourself, you're going to want to look for the CADR, Clean Air Delivery Rate. That is a really important number because a lot of times the square footage that you see advertised on Amazon is often inflated or inaccurate depending on the brand, and it's hard to know. But the thing that you can be really sure on is the clean air delivery rate. You can measure the dimensions of your room and put those dimensions into a clean air delivery rate calculator, and it'll tell you the number that you need to focus on when it comes to buying a commercial air purifier. So, the first air purifier that I bought was in 2022, the very beginning of 2022. And if you go on Amazon, you type in the Levoit Core 200S, it will tell you that the square footage, for this device is 900 and something square feet. I looked it up earlier. If you go to the Association of Home Appliance Manufacturers, which is a trade group for air purifier companies, they independently test air purifiers, and the standard that they're looking for is 5 air changes an hour. So when it comes to the recommended square footage, when it comes to the clean air delivery rate, that number is based on 4.8 air changes an hour. If you are using an air purifier for virus mitigation purposes, for allergies, wildfire smoke, things of that nature, you want to at least have 5 air changes per hour. And so if we were to go by that standard for my Levoit Core 200S, the recommended square footage based on the assumption that the ceiling height is like 8 feet tall, that room square footage would be 100, 125 square feet. Yeah, and they're advertising it for essentially 1,000 square feet. I still own that air purifier. It's more like a supplemental one in my bedroom. Yeah, I see no reason to like get rid of it, but I would not rely on it for COVID mitigation purposes. It's just supplemental, like I said. So, the Association of Home Appliance Manufacturers, or AHAM, they have a directory where you can look up air purifiers to see the recommended room size. You can see the CADR. And if you're similar to me, if this is for your home and you're working off of vibes, I would recommend that you size up. So if I'm trying to put an air purifier in a room that is 200 square feet, when I go to that directory, or I go to House Fresh, which is another resource that I highly recommend. They've done a lot of the testing and reviewing for us. They give you that square footage based on the 4.8 air changes per hour as well. But the reason I'm recommending sizing up is because that testing, that square footage, is based on running the device at its highest and oftentimes loudest fan speed, especially if you're getting the conventional, the commercial, the name brandish air purifiers. When you're running it at the highest fan speed, it is going to be louder unless you go the route of DIY, which is an option. You might want to go the PC fan air purifier route. I don't know enough to really talk about it, but I definitely will give you resources so that if you're interested in going in that route, um, you can do what it is you need to do and know what you need to know. But that clean air delivery rate is super important. I say all that to say do not just go off of what Amazon, the manufacturer, is telling you, because not all of them will share the AHAM or the Energy Star um, ratings. Energy Star has a directory. If you go to your preferred search engine and type in Energy Star room, excuse me, room air cleaners, they have a directory as well. It's not my favorite because it doesn't have pictures, but they do have some brands on there that the AHAM directory doesn't. And if neither one of those work for you, you can always email the manufacturer and ask for the KDAR, especially for the different fan speeds. Um, the KDAR can differ for each fan speed, and so that's important to keep in mind, which is why I recommend that people size up when it comes to air purifiers. Just the fact that the fan speed differs means the clean air delivery rate will differ. And so if you're sizing up, you can run a device that's rated for a larger room for your smaller space. I hope that is making sense. Get the air purifier for a larger room so that you can run it at a lower fan speed and get that recommended amount of air changes for your space. I really want to leave it there. Let me know what your experiences have been with different masks, with different air purifiers. Have you built your own? Brands that you like, brands that you don't like? But really, for me, House Fresh is where I really started to learn more about air purifiers and like see through the BS and find other resources like the Association of Home Appliance Manufacturers. Then I found Energy Star. So big shout out to the team at House Fresh. Check them out if you haven't. There's also a site called Air Purifier First that reviews a lot of um, conventional air purifiers or like commercial air purifiers. I will give House Fresh credit in that they have some articles about PC fan air purifiers. So maybe you don't want to completely build your own, but you're a big, I'm going to avoid it, you're a big proponent of PC fan air purifiers. That is also an option as well for you. Thank you so much for tuning in. If there are other things that you would like for me to cover in the future or just yap about, let me know. And if anything was unclear, please let me know. I really didn't want to make this super long, which is why I'm giving a lot of the resources to you so that you can look into this yourself and just be more informed. All right.